Rani, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Angela, it's so great to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. Rani, while I've given a bit of a teaser about you to our listeners and viewers, why don't you give a little bit of an introduction about yourself to us?
Sure. So I have been with Adobe for the last 12 years. I started out, Angela, in program management and then quickly went into operations and then was a chief of staff for one of our content community VPs. And from there, I moved into being a director of social support. I think that's when you and I met when I was doing customer support on our social channels. My
Yes.
team that is. And then from there, I'm in my current role, which is head of employee advocacy. And as part of that, I do some external influencer relations as well. And so this has been a wonderful career at Adobe. And prior to that, I was at IBM for 10 years doing account management for different accounts. And my last account before moving over to Adobe was with the Gap. So the Gap Inc., which is part of Gap Kids,
Hmm.
the retail giant. So it's been a wonderful career in the tech industry, and I am happily married with 4 kids and living here in California. So
I think with that, let's open up a conversation, Rani. And I'm such a fan of your talk on Adobe for All Summit. And from there, I think I have got a couple of thoughts which I felt that okay, let's have a conversation or rather a broader conversation on. And the first one is, um, you know, this whole time which has given us a lot of opportunity to self-reflect. And I have felt that we all have a stigma around us about not being able to achieve something. And in your life as well, you would have actually gone through these situations where you would have faced these stigmas as well, whether it is social or self-driven for that matter. How have you been able to manage to overcome these kind of stigmas in your life?
well, anytime I find that I'm not achieving something I've set out to do, for me, it's a signal from the universe telling me to change directions. And so I don't
Hmm.
ever see anything as a failure. Everything is a blessing or a lesson, right? And so I really try to look at when I'm not going in the direction I thought I should, rather than wallow in why isn't this working for me? What am I doing wrong? Or trying to place blame externally. I see it as a gosh, I need to pay attention to this because it's moving me away from something I'm probably not supposed to do and moving me towards something I should do. And so I think it's a matter of being flexible and open and being connected to that inner knowing, if you will, Anshul. And it takes a lot of practice because I think the instinct is to say, well, something must be going wrong here. What should I do to course correct? And I think if you really pay attention, it'll give you directional feedback that wherever you were going was not the right place for you to go. Let's switch
Hmm.
course. And so that's been really useful to me, framing it that way.
That's a very interesting point you have made that these kind of course corrections are needed in life, whether we feel they are good for us or not. I remember I was reading about somebody called as Baba Ramdas. So he has been a guru in the Oriental philosophy, and he has been a writer of a bestseller called as Be Here Now. In fact, he was a PhD scholar from Harvard University in psychology. His name technically is Richard Alpert, and he has gone through a brain stroke some time back, and his whole body got paralyzed. There is a documentary, by the way, on Netflix on him, and he was mentioning that the stroke actually has given him an opportunity to look inward. And I
Right.
can relate to your point as well that whatever happens, there is a reason behind it, and then you can actually start seeing and start reflecting on that. So now,
Right.
whether it is a social stigma or self-driven, one has to actually start overcoming it because if not, then you are getting into trap for your own self.
And Angela, I would add that you shouldn't be too attached to the outcome, right? You
Hmm.
shouldn't be so attached to, I want to go from point A to point Z, that if B and C and D comes along, and if it shows you you should go in that direction, you should be flexible enough and open enough to move in whatever direction the universe is pointing you to. Because ultimately, I feel like the higher powers are conspiring for your greater good, right? So whenever you think you know best, that's probably a recipe for you need to stop and reflect and surrender a bit to what the higher power has in store for you. Because often when I've gone down the path of um, my own convictions for what I think is best for me, I've often stumbled into problems. Whereas if I can just surrender to what I believe my higher powers have in mind for me and try to align with that, I've arrived at much better outcomes. But it takes a lot of humility. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of
Yeah,
um, confidence, right? Turning your control over to a higher power. But luckily,
true.
with age, I've been able to do that.
No, I completely relate to this. I remember one of the quotations somewhere I've read is it doesn't matter how random things may appear, there is always a plan behind them.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
so you're absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. So, moving on, uh, you in your conversation you have mentioned earlier about being unreasonable to yourself as well. You know,
Yeah.
till the time you are not unreasonable, you will not get what you really want. Um, we have seen, we are living, or we are already living in this world where we are really tough on our own self. And
Mm-hmm.
and how do you see, we can make that balance of being really unreasonable to ourselves and push ourselves to the T that we achieve our dreams, at the same time have self-love and self-compassion as well.
Yeah, yeah. So it's an excellent question, Anshul. I know for myself, I really abide by, how when we fly, the stewardesses will say, make sure to put on your own oxygen mask first before you put on anything for anybody else. And so I think that's really the ticket to doing this well, right? Make sure your cup is filled, that your cup overfloweth, right? That you're a complete person, that you're constantly edifying yourself, you're becoming as still and as building yourself up as much as possible before you can actually be of any service to anyone else. And so the ways I do that is through prayer and meditation and journaling and good reading, right? Things to like feed my soul, make my heart sing, good music, good conversations with people, good food, right? Taking really good care of myself. And from there, I'm unstoppable in terms of my ability to help other people because I'm centered, I'm whole, I'm complete first. And that's not considered selfish. I think it's actually one of the most selfless things that you can do is to build yourself up and create as much positivity for yourself and actually make it so that you're useful to other people. And then from there, you want to push yourselves as hard as you can, right? To go after your goals and your dreams. And when I say dare to be unreasonable, I'm talking about, I'm not saying necessarily unpractical, but I'm just saying don't conform yourself to the narratives of the world. The world
Hmm.
will try to tell you what you can't and can't do. And what I'm saying is defy that logic, push beyond that, right? And connect with what you know inside that you can do. And so that's really my thoughts around balancing that kind of self-care and self-love while still going after your dreams, because both are possible. They're not mutually exclusive. In fact, one is needed in order to bring to pass the next thing, right? They go hand in hand.
I think I think you have made a very very valid point over here, Rani. And if I just self-reflect myself as well on this, we have actually mismeaned or rather misconceived the whole conversation or whole thought about being unreasonable and being self-compassion. I think we have taken the whole concept of being unreasonable to self as a negative one, that we need to push ourselves in a wrong way. I think that push has to come in a way that we improve ourselves on the daily basis. Because if we can't, we will lag behind. And you have made a very valid point about adding those layers of reading, talking to right amount of people, right kind of people, getting the right context and content around yourself to kind of make yourself a better human being, make yourself a little more wiser human being. Then you can actually go ahead and impart that inspiration and that wisdom to others. At the same
That's
time, uh, on self-compassion, I think we have perceived self-compassion to be self-comfortable. Okay, let me be self-compassionate. Let me just binge watch Netflix.
yeah,
Let me just do nothing. Let me just
yeah.
lie around and look at stars. There's nothing wrong in that though, but there should be some outcome, like you rightly said on that. So I think I agree to where you are going.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. It's not about lying around. I mean, we need to do some of that to, right, feed our souls and take care of ourselves, but it's about actually becoming the best version of ourselves that we can be, whatever it takes to do that. And then at that point, we can be of most service to other people. But if we don't take care of ourselves, we're going to be of no value. I mean, Anshul, you know that as a father, you know that as a husband, that
Yeah.
you need to do that, you know. So
So
I'm thrilled we're having this conversation because it's not a topic that most people like to talk about because it is
exactly.
uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. Yes, it's very uncomfortable. Absolutely. So Rani, if we need to just figure that out for a moment, that I think most of us maybe in the bottom of our heart know this. That, okay, I think we need to invest in ourselves. I think we need to not binge watch Netflix rather than read something really nice. But how should we push ourselves to do something which is right and not something which we generally do or get to do it?
Well, I think it's a matter of knowing where we want to go and then backing into what's going to get us there. So, for
Hmm.
example, if I say I want to be VP, I mean, it's a goal of mine, right? I want to be somebody's, hopefully Adobe's, but somebody's chief community officer, right?
Hmm.
And so that's a goal I've had for a while. So if I want to do that, there's a handful of things that I need to do to get to that point. And then if I say, oh, but I don't have time, right? I don't have time. I'm so overwhelmed. I've got this and that and the third to do. The reality is, right, I make time for anything that I actually want to do. So, for example, Anshul, I'm a huge fan of these mindless soap operas, right? These mindless soap operas, somehow I always figure out a way to find the 1 hour that I need to watch those because I have prioritized that. It's something that actually makes my heart sing. It makes me happy, and so I make it happen, right? But then for me to come back and tell you, I want to be Adobe's chief community officer, but yet I wasn't able to find the time to do this training or get this certification. That's baloney, right? What I'm really saying is it's not nearly as important to me as what I want to do here, which is watch soap operas. So I think it's about becoming really honest with yourself as to what it is that you say that you're wanting to do, and then making sure your actions and your words actually match. And that's something a lot of people struggle with. Their actions and their words do not match.
Do not match. I agree.
Do not. Yeah.
I think what I hear from you is what you're trying to say is set your priorities right.
Yeah.
What is P1, what is P2, and what is P3? Let
Yes.
P3 be at P3 and not become P1.
Exactly.
Got your
Exactly
point.
right.
Got your point. Got your point. So from your perspective, Rani, we are in this time where there is so much going on. What is your advice to people around, uh, and where they can manage their own emotional agility and emotional self in a better way? Because as we said, these are strange times.
They're strange times, but it's about seeing the best in it, right? Not to get so down. Allow yourself to feel. I mean, don't give yourself permission to go through whatever phase that you need to go through. Everybody's at a different phase in life. They have different obstacles, they have different configurations in terms of who are you quarantining with, what is the situation, right? It's all different. And so don't feel like there's one size all way of going about it. Give yourself permission to go through whatever you need to go through, but don't stay there too long, right? I think I read
Mm.
someplace that you can only have a negative thought for 17 seconds before you go on to the next thought. So don't spiral, right? If you need to count backwards from 17 to 0, give yourself permission to do it for 17 seconds and then move on. Because if you don't unstuck yourself, then you can really talk yourself into a tizzy. And truly, truly, the words and the thoughts that go into your head is ultimately a reflection of your external life. So if you want to have a bright future, you have to change the language you use with yourself, as well as the stories you tell yourself and the thoughts that you dwell on. So that, I would say, take control of your words and take control of your thoughts, because otherwise
Sounds,
you're going to go down a path that you're not going to be too happy with.
you're right, Rani. Thoughts are physical, isn't it?
It's so physical, so extremely physical. I mean, truly, when you look around you and you look at your life, you can back into, this is years of thoughts and words that actually manifested in what you're living today. So
Mm.
similarly,
Mm.
if you want a different future, you have to think differently, you have to talk differently. I'm a huge believer of how important words and thoughts are. They ultimately manifest whatever is externally around you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Rani, this was such a lovely conversation, and it's always such a pleasure to speak to you.
So good to be here, and good luck to you with this. I think this is going to be a fantastic podcast series. I'm really, really
Thank you so
excited.
much.
You
Thank
bet.
you. Thank you, Rani. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Rani. Thank you for taking time. We'll meet soon.
Please, let's do it. Thank you again.
Thank you.